welcome back, everyone, to the third episode of the Between the Lines podcast. My name is Nishant, as usual, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts. We got Jad, Elda, and Danny Pauling. How you guys doing today?
Good, man. How about
What
you?
to do, baby?
Doing pretty good, pretty good. And again, we'd like to thank everyone who's listening to this on Spotify, soon to be on Apple Podcasts, and two episodes should be on YouTube, and this one also should be on YouTube. But we'll just jump right in. So, we're going to start off with a couple questions of the week that were submitted by a couple fans. So the first question that we have is from Andrew Deppy. He asks, what are our thoughts on Cooper Kupp and the Rams in general? Do we think the Rams are going to be playoff contenders, Super Bowl contenders? And do we think Cooper Kupp is on the verge of being a top 10 wide receiver, or is he already a top 10 wide receiver? I'll start with Jad. What are your thoughts on the Rams so far?
Oh yeah, I did touch upon this last week. I did have Matt Stafford as my MVP prediction. So as that shows, I am really high on this Rams team. I mean, the defense, like the superstars on that team, I think it's just a really good team all put together. I get 2019 Niners vibes from them. I do like that team. And then going to Cooper Kupp, I mean, this dude's in the Julian Edelman, Wes Welker kind of slot receiver realm. I don't think that really puts him as a top 10 receiver, but I could see him being top 3 slot receivers in the league easily, especially with Matt Stafford there.
Yeah, top 3 slot. You got guys like Stephon Diggs play slot sometimes. You got who else plays
Yeah,
slot?
but he's more of a pure slot though.
Yeah, I like that. Well, what about you, Dan? What are your thoughts on Cooper Kupp?
Well, yeah. First and foremost about the Rams, I like the Niners comparison. You know, team with a solid defense, solid quarterback. Obviously, Stafford's better than Garoppolo was. Of Cooper Kupp, let's pump the brakes on top 10. I think for now, but certainly been playing like a top 10 receiver. You know,
Oh yeah,
but
sure.
we'll see how it is next coming weeks.
If you were to give like a ranking, just off the top of your head, Dan, where would you put Kupp right now? What range?
Ooh, top of my head, you know, taking into account both this year and last year, I'd say probably top 15, top 20.
Yeah, I'd have him like top 20 entering the season, but I think he's definitely jumped up to top 15. I personally think that the Rams can make it to the Super Bowl. I have them in my Super Bowl for my prediction. I think it's going to be either them or the Bucks. And excuse me. Well, I mean, I think we're going to see the NFC Championship preview this Sunday. And speaking of our games of the week, we'll talk about last week's games of the week. And first, we'll touch on the Sunday night game, which was the Chiefs and Ravens. Lamar got his first win against Patrick Mahomes. The Ravens bounced back after a tough loss against the Raiders. And I'll ask Jad first. What were you most impressed by from the Ravens?
For impressed by, I think Lamar after his stink of a first half, I was actually really impressed about how the whole team kind of came together after that. I thought it was really cool how Harbaugh. There was like that little clip of Harbaugh asking Lamar if he wanted to go for it on fourth down. That like ballsy fourth down when Lamar ran for it right in the game. So I was impressed how they kind of came together there. I know me and Nish both expected this to be a blowout, and the first couple of quarters made it look like it was going to be a stinker of a game. But it was cool to see them come together.
Yeah, I feel dumb for predicting the Chiefs would win by 20, but
Yeah.
we'll go to Dan. I'm gonna ask you about the Ravens defense. They obviously lost Marcus Peters before Week 1 started, and you had guys like Odafe Owe, who I honestly did not even know about. He's a rookie. It was a second NFL game. What are your thoughts about their defense?
Well, Owe was a stud. Top 10 rookie, I would say, on both the offense and defense so far this season. I would say their defense, you know, allowing 35 points, but they came up big when it mattered most. I think that's the most important thing. I like Jad's take of Lamar, and I just want to touch on that really quickly because Lamar has kind of been regarded as a guy who can't play from behind. You know, if he goes down early, he's screwed. He's not going to come back, and he really proved everybody wrong with that game there.
Yeah, I think was it that I think his name is Ty. What's his name? He had the interception on Mahomes and he was falling down. What's his name? Tavon Young. That's his name.
Yeah.
He had a great game. One guy that I really want to talk about is Anthony Averitt, who was basically following Tyreek for the majority of the game. Held him to 3 catches for 14 yards. And there was one play in particular. There was a third down. Tyreek was running an out route, Averitt had amazing coverage on him, blanketed him, basically forced the Chiefs to punt. Ravens get back the momentum after scoring a touchdown. And he played a great game, and he's really stepping into that cornerback 2 role for the Ravens. And I was really impressed by the Ravens as a whole. They bounced back after that really tough L on Monday night. I think they can continue this throughout the whole year.
To
But
to
moving
to kind
on,
of step in there
yeah,
with the Ravens, just like another thing about that defense. I was kind of disappointed by that team. Just didn't look like they wanted to tackle. I mean, I don't know how many yak yards there was for that game, but like, wow, that defense just refused to tackle. I remember the one with Kelsey, and I think there was also one with Pringle, where he was just
yeah,
running through everyone.
yeah. That's
Yeah, but
one thing
then
that they need to address for sure. So moving on to our second game that we'll talk about from last week, we're going to touch on the Cardinals and Vikings game that went into that did not go into OT. Actually, the Vikings missed a field goal at the last second, but I'm mentioning the third game that we'll talk about. The Cardinals stayed undefeated now. The Vikings fall to 0-2 after losses to the Bengals and Arizona now. But Dan, should we be concerned about Minnesota and especially Kirk Cousins?
I don't think so necessarily. They put up a solid amount of points. Jefferson had a better game. Thielen's going to be there. Kirk Cousins didn't look great, but I think it's still early, kind of figuring things out. But it is a little bit concerning considering they're kind of bringing back that same team. It's not like they need time really to gel or anything, but we'll see how that plays out in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I'll ask Jab. Did you get to watch this Vikings game at all?
yeah, so I've got one thing about the Vikings and one thing about the Cardinals. For the Vikings, I mean, this was the shootout of the week, which is always fun. Um, I was really impressed by the Vikings' resilience, honestly. I mean, after that week 1 overtime loss and then going down on that first possession of the game, getting a touchdown scored on them, I think I could have easily seen that team just kind of crumbling under that disappointment for the first couple of plays and week 1. But I mean, they really stepped up. I think it says a lot about this team and a lot about Cousins actually that he was able to bring his team back from that disappointment.
Yeah, and I'll flip to the other side with the Arizona Cardinals. I know Dan predicted Kyler Murray as his MVP, and he's really stepping up. And I think he has a great shot. He's passing the ball well. He's running the ball especially well. He's been a very very good fantasy quarterback. And I could see the Cardinals maybe being on the fringe of the playoffs. But I'll ask you both: do you think the Cardinals are a pretender or a contender right now?
This question is always interesting when you bring up those kind of dual threat quarterbacks. As far as playoff success, we haven't really seen those dual threat quarterbacks have too much success. Really, maybe you can count Patrick Mahomes. He's like pass first guy. When you think of Kyler Murray, though, he's a runner. He's not quite to the extent of Lamar Jackson, but he's definitely not as much of a passer as a Mahomes. But I would say right now they are pretenders, and I think that schedule is going to be a little bit more difficult coming up. They're obviously in one of, if not the best division in all of football, so we'll see how that plays out. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs just because that division's so good.
Yeah. What about you, Jad? Do you think the Cardinals are pretenders or contenders?
So I mean, if I'm going to be totally honest, what brings people in the playoffs is their defense and their run game, and having a quarterback that is just a play call or just like a not a flashy guy. I mean, we've seen it with Lamar these past years, and A-Rod. Honestly, I think for playoff success, what you need is not the flashy scores, not like his fadeaway touchdown to Christian Kirk. You need just a solid quarterback that can run the ball and hand it off, and you're gonna play action and that kind of stuff. So I actually see them as pretenders as well.
Yeah, I'd honestly I'd have them there as well. I actually think they're the worst team in that division, which is saying a lot because they are very good.
Yeah.
But so we'll move on to our third game from last week, which was Seattle versus Tennessee, and that was a great game from both sides. I watched a majority of that game, but the thing I noticed was that Tennessee struggled a lot. Their offense sort of made up for it, especially in the second half, but their defense was horrible. I'm just going to be blunt. Their defense struggled a lot, and they have a relatively easy schedule. And being in probably the second easiest division in the league, do you still see them making the playoffs? I'll start with you, Jad.
I mean, for the Titans, it was nice to see Julio arrive for them. Yeah, he got over 100 yards, but unfortunately, that defense is just gonna kill him. Like especially that secondary. I mean, it's hard to go far in this league without a defense behind you.
Undoubtedly,
And
yeah.
yeah, I think that's a big concern. They tried to address it with Farley, but he's just been disappointing, I think. And if
Yeah.
they don't figure that defense out, this team is not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean it's only been 2 games. Can't really judge rookie corners, especially. But I still think they could have addressed a lot more. I didn't agree with the Bud Dupree signing. They could have gone after someone more. They could have gone after someone cheaper and probably more efficient. I'm not a big fan of their linebacking core, but I like Kevin Byard in their secondary.
And who needs
But
a defense when you got Derrick Henry?
exactly. But we've obviously seen in the past teams that have great defenses, not amazing offenses, that have carried them to the playoffs. And I don't want to make everything about Washington, but we look at Washington from last year, look at the Niners from 2 years ago that we mentioned earlier. But Dan, I'll ask you, do you think Tennessee's offense can carry them to the playoffs?
I do think so. The defense has been bad, but when you have talents like Derrick Henry, when you have a solid quarterback, we talk about those solid quarterbacks. Ryan Tannehill is that. When you have a guy like Derrick Henry, though, Ryan Tannehill, A.J. Brown has been getting targets. He's still got a role in the offense, just hasn't make those catches. You add Julio Jones. Hopefully he can stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And you got sort of these solid role players around. Again, you got Kevin Byard. Maybe Farley can step up. Bud Dupree obviously needs to be better considering the amount of money he got. But I think that they will make the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of helps when you have both the Jags and Texans in your division,
Mm-hmm.
and the Colts aren't starting off too hot, especially with Wentz injured now. But we'll see how the Titans move on. We'll jump into everyone's favorite segment. We'll go with our favorite team recap from this past week. I'll start with Dan. The Eagles played against the Niners in a pretty controversial game, refereeing wise. I'd say I watched the end of that game. It was pretty rough to watch. Dan, what are your initial thoughts about that?
I mean, the calls you can talk about, they went both ways. I'm not really focused on that, though. I'm not concerned about that. What I'm concerned about is the real display of rookie play calling by Nick Sirianni, obviously rookie head coach. Jalen Hurts wasn't good. He wasn't bad. But Nick Sirianni really needs to make those better plays when it matters. A lot of opportunities thrown away. You had that 91-yard pass to Quez Watkins, which ended up being like half of the passing yards you had that whole game.
Mm-hmm.
And you couldn't score. You had, I think they had a flag on third down, so they had like 7 chances to score within that like 10-yard line, and they just couldn't do it. So that needs to be cleaned up. You got to take advantage of those opportunities, or else a team like the Niners is going to beat you. And your defense did show up, which is good. But Brandon Graham is hurt now.
Yeah, and also Brandon Brooks, didn't he? He got injured, right?
Yeah, he got injured, a pec injury. You slide now, though, so we'll see how that goes.
I was high on him going into the draft, so we'll see how he does. But Jad, I know you're excited to talk about Mr. Mack's first win in the NFL. How we thinking?
Not to sound too much like you, Nish, but we are back, baby. This was a good team win. The defense was looking dangerous. Mack was looking dangerous. Dame time was activated a bit early today.
Yeah, and your best defensive player was Zach Wilson, so that's a great.
Yeah, sign. I mean, at what point in this game, Zach Wilson had 4 for 10 with like completions, and that was with 4 picks. So, I mean, it is the Jets, so I'm gonna try and stop myself from being too happy. But I mean, you gotta love a divisional win, especially in this fashion.
For sure.
And the Jets aren't even looking that bad this year. So to get Zach Wilson to see ghosts like that.
Let's slow down a little bit there.
I mean, after that Week 1 game against the Panthers, they're not the old Jets.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Zach Wilson was seeing ghosts there, but
yeah, just Jets gonna jet.
Yeah, we'll move on to a Washington and New York's game. I was pretty impressed from our offense in that game. I wasn't really that impressed with our defense. I'm gonna just go on a rant about our defense. It's not good at all. Like people overrated our defense so much to where when we don't play good, people would just shit on us constantly, and it's a little how do I say it? It's just annoying because as a Washington fan who's I've been doing my due diligence. I've been looking up on updates, watching the training camp videos. I'm not like the casual fan. I've been looking at our defense the whole offseason. And I wasn't a big fan of the Jamin Davis selection. I wanted JOK more, but I was pretty content with what I saw in preseason. But I just didn't think our defense was like top tier. We played good last year, but I think William Jackson was a bit of an overpay at the time. He's looking pretty solid right now, but he did struggle a lot in the New York game. But I'll hold myself. But Taylor
let it
Heineke
back.
played.
Let it out, buddy.
Yeah, I wish I could. If we don't make the playoffs, you'll hear a whole spiel from me. But I was happy with what I saw from Heineke. He was a real game manager. I said in a post that he played great for about 28 minutes and 10 seconds. And we had the ball for 28 minutes and 16 seconds. And those 6 seconds were when he threw that pick to James Bradbury. And when I saw that pick, I thought our game was over. I honestly almost turned off the TV because I thought New York was just going to go down, get a first down, kick a field goal, game over. But I'm glad that we came out with the win. Again, divisional wins are huge. And hopefully we got Buffalo next week. I'm hopeful to see just a good back and forth game. But we'll see
about that one.
Yeah. Yeah, so speaking of good games, we'll talk about the Raiders, who did great against the Steelers this past week. They did great against the Ravens on Monday night in week 1. And Derek Carr he's playing elite right now. He leads the league in passing. Yeah, wide receivers Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs has taken that next step. Bryan Edwards, I was really high on coming to this year. And then Darren Waller is just Darren Waller. Max Crosby has been great on defense, Yannick Ngakoue, and the defense has really stepped up from what we've seen in the past. So, Jad, I'll ask you, are the Raiders legit?
All right, so I want to take a second to just allow us to have a moment of silence for that man that Najee Harris took his soul from on that stiff arm. So
let me pull that up. Who was that?
I don't know if we should even be talking about it, to be honest.
It was Jonathan Abram. Oh my God.
That was just something else. But to kind of go back into this, Derek Carr had that passing game buzzing, and they have a defense that just doesn't look like a joke. So I'm not totally ready to say that they're a real threat to the AFC just yet. But I mean, a couple more weeks like this, I don't know how you could count them out.
Yeah, for sure.
Derek Carr has been underrated for years, so I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so with our second 2-0 team that we're talking about this episode, Dan, I'll ask you, do you think the Raiders are pretenders or contenders?
See, this one's a little bit more difficult. I agree with Jad. Derek Carr has been underrated for years, so I think now might be the year where people kind of start to see who he is and what he can do. And as long as there's pieces around him that are going to step up, again, I mentioned Josh Jacobs, I think last week, got to step up, got to stay healthy, got to be better. But other than that, if Ruggs can be good, if Bryan Edwards can be good, if Darren Waller is going to continue to do what, he can do, I think the Raiders are contenders. That division, really, any in that wild card spot, yeah. I would say the Chiefs are the lock for, the division win, but Broncos, Chargers, and Raiders, I think, are all capable of getting the wild card spot.
For sure. The Broncos are 2-0, right?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, they are. So, I mean, that division is honestly up for grabs because all 4 of those teams are playing pretty decently. But we'll move on to our fantasy booms for week 3. So this segment, if you didn't know, are fantasy guys that played really good in week 2, and we'll talk about what their overall outlook is going to be like for the next week. So I'll start with you, Jad. Who was your fantasy boom?
So I'm going to go with a guy that Danny actually stole from me off of waivers, and I'm going to go with Mike Williams. So he's coming off his second big week. He's now averaging 22.2 points between his first 2 games. And he also played the Chiefs, who, let's just say, aren't the best secondary. But I think it is impressive, him having 2 straight back-to-back games. And, I think we can see that out of him again.
All right. I like that pick. I think Keenan Allen really takes away most of the secondary, and Mike Williams is a great second option for the Chargers.
Yeah.
Dan, who's your fantasy boom for week 3?
Well, first and foremost, I like that Mike Williams pick. I almost picked him for this segment too. He's being utilized a little bit differently with the new coaching staff in more like intermediate routes instead of just kind of field, throw it up for him. But my fantasy boom is Terry McLaurin. So I think 11 receptions, over 100 yards, and a touchdown. These are the games I kind of expect him to have. Just picking up a lot of receptions, I believe 27 fantasy points. Like I said, these are the games I'm expecting him to have. Maybe not with that much yardage, but when you get a guy who's going to get you around, 9 receptions a game, that's a guaranteed 9 points right there. Plus say add 60 yards or whatever. So solid 15 at least, plus add a touchdown. So I like Terry McLaurin moving forward.
Yeah, and I think Terry should really step up the next couple of weeks, especially with Heineke being the starter. I think he's averaging what? Let's see here. He's averaging around 11.3 yards per reception. So
Yeah.
you said he's getting 9 catches. 9 times 11 is around 99 yards. That's should be like 18 points a game. Am I right? Around 16 to
Something like
18.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's honestly, if we're looking at last year, that's wide receiver 6 to 8 numbers.
Yep.
And I could really see that for
Yeah,
Terry.
that's solid.
Yeah. I'll move on to my fantasy boom, who is wide receiver, and I'm gonna go with Arizona Cardinals second round pick Rondale Moore, and he did really good this past week. He had 24 points, led the Cardinals to a huge win. He's averaging 16.3 yards per reception now, and I think him and Christian Kirk are really fighting for that wide receiver too. You have both of them playing in the slot. One of them will be outside, then they'll rotate. But they got the Jaguars next game. You'll have Shaq Griffin on DeAndre Hopkins. And I think this could be a great game for Rondale Moore, especially against a pretty depleted Seattle secondary. And I'll ask you guys, do you think Rondale Moore can maybe take that jump to the Cardinals wide receiver too?
I think it's going to take some time. He was kind of a raw prospect for me coming out of Purdue. I would say Christian Kirk is still going to be that wide receiver too until further notice. For me, in fantasy, Rondale Moore is kind of a pick him up and stash him basically on your bench. And if he
Okay.
continues to have those good games, maybe you put him into the starting lineup. But for now, pick him up, see what he can do, see if he does step into that number 2 spot, and kind of go from there.
All right. So what about you, Jed? Do you think Rondale Moore can maybe take that next step?
Funny enough, I did actually claim Rondale Moore off waivers this week, so I'm sure hoping so. For going into this week, I am gonna have him on my bench, but yeah, I think best case scenario for the Cardinals is he does take that number 2 spot, so they're gonna do everything in their power to let that happen, so that they don't have to pay Christian Kirk. So
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a good point.
yeah, I've got faith in him. Hopefully.
Yeah. So we've been talking a lot about our fantasy team. So let's just give like short little update how we're doing. We'll start with Dan. How's your squad looking?
So we're 1-1. I don't know how to feel about my squad. I got Devontae Adams in round 1, Saquon Barkley in round 2. Now Barkley's been banged up. I'm really hoping that they unleash him this week against who are they playing? Falcons. So this would be a good week for him to be unleashed. He played 84% of snaps last week. My receivers are stacked. I really just need my running backs to step up. I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire on my team, who has been extremely disappointing. For now, I'm going to be benching him until further notice, until he actually gives me a reason to start him. So
Okay.
Miles Sanders is going to be starting over him this week, but we will see. Not feeling too confident, but yeah.
All right. I'm 1-1 as well. I struggled last week because I didn't have a great game from Tyreek. Didn't have a great game from George Kittle. I think I had the Ravens defense starting. But Aaron Rodgers did pretty good for me. But I'm hoping. I actually just picked up KJ Osborne off of waivers. So I'm debating starting him. He just had 20 points last week and then 15 points week 1. So I got a big game against David this week. Hopefully I can get a win. What about you, Jad? How's Super Lamario going?
I mean, I was not totally prepared for this segment, and I don't think I'll ever be prepared for this segment here. I don't have much to say about what's going on with my team. I mean, I just did some quick math, and I have put up the 4th most points in our 8-man league, which, yeah, you'd expect to win out of that, right? So
0-2.
I am an 0-2 team, and
It's all right.
I think what I'm shooting for right now is if I do have the lowest record, I hope someone's down there with me, because I know I will take that top spot, and I will not have to
Everyone
take this
here
one.
knows that we got a little punishment going for the loser. Well, no, we won't say it. We'll maybe post a video once the punishment it has been done. Well, you got 14 weeks of fantasy. You still got 12 more, so we'll see how it goes.
If I can actually tap in here, I'm quite confident David won't watch this podcast at this point. So me and David do have a trade in the works going right now.
Really?
And it is for Robert Woods and DeAndre Swift for Antonio Gibson.
Wow. I know Jad has
Ooh.
a severe hatred for Robert Woods.
I'm doing whatever I can to get this guy off my team, but I'm just wondering what your thoughts about that trade are.
So say it again. Robert Woods and who else for Antonio
I'm
Gibson?
getting Antonio Gibson, and I'm giving away DeAndre Swift and Robert Woods.
I'd say that's a dub for David because I think Swift.
Oh wow.
I think the 2-for-1s are kind of weird because I don't think Gibson is that. He's not that much of an upgrade from
Right.
DeAndre Swift, if I'm being honest.
If
And
he's even
plus,
an upgrade at all.
exactly. And
Yeah.
he's getting Robert Woods, who is a wide receiver 2 or
Yeah.
3 on a fantasy team. But I mean, I think if it helps you, then you do you. But I'm just gonna give my 2 cents.
So if I can defend my side here really fast,
Go ahead.
my thinking behind this is with Fitz being out, I was expecting this team to run the ball a lot, and Antonio Gibson is averaging 20 rushes a game, and
Yeah.
this is also to defend my side. I do have Odell coming back, and with Jarvis Landry out indefinitely, I'm expecting
Mhm.
Odell to be able to step up and go in my wide receiver number 3 spot behind
Okay, yeah,
Calvin and
that's
Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
that's
And
sweet.
I
can
also
see
have
that.
Brandon Cooks there, who's
Mhm.
been just cooking this whole season.
Yeah.
No pun intended. So I mean, I do have replacements for that wide receiver spot. So I think Antonio Gibson is ultimately an upgrade. So I think that would help my team out a bit.
Yeah, but Washington, they just threw the ball like 50 times against
Well,
New
I think
York.
that's because the Giants have a pretty solid run defense, and I'm not sure
Mhm.
about their secondary. So
Yeah.
I think that's just a matchup thing. And I know Antonio Gibson was a top pick in our league, so I'm just having faith that he'll return to that top pick status.
Yeah. All right. What about you, Dan? What are your thoughts on that trade? What do you think?
I would agree with you. I think Antonio Gibson's not really enough to get for Swift plus Woods, but man, all right, because
All right.
I think you might be the only team that's worse than mine. So I'm kind of hoping you lose, to be honest. Respectfully.
All right.
Yeah. I'd pay to see Jad do our punishment. That'd be the funniest thing ever.
All right.
Should we tell the listeners what our punishment is, or should we just wait?
You know, Nish, I think that decision's up to you.
It's up to me.
I think you got to tell them now.
Gotta tell them now.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll tell everyone now. So the loser of our fantasy league has to have to buy an inflatable doll off of Amazon and take the doll on a date and treat it as a real person.
And if I can add, I wouldn't call myself a cheapskate, but I do not like spending money that I work for. And this is a $50 doll off Amazon. So spending that $50 plus a dinner for a fake doll, I think would have some really drastic effects on my mental state.
Yeah. I mean, it's what you signed up for. So you got to follow through if you lose. But the league is so up for grabs right now. No one except I think Matt is undefeated right now.
Right.
Is he? Yeah, I think Matt just
Matt
beat
and his
Jad.
22 points per game kicker. That Matt? Yeah.
Yeah, that Matt.
All right.
So we'll move on from fantasy. So we'll talk about our week 3 games of the week. We got one from each person. And I'll start with mine. We got the Chargers and Chiefs. And we got a matchup of 2 teams that are just coming off of tough losses. Chargers just lost by 3 points. Chiefs obviously lost on Sunday night by 1. I got a really good Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes matchup. Battle of the young QBs. Chargers defense has looked pretty good this year, holding Washington to 16 and then Dallas to 20. But the Chargers still didn't end up with the win, especially with that Justin Herbert performance. He had 2 picks that game. But I think he can step it up against a pretty average Chiefs defense. What are your thoughts on this game, guys?
Yeah, I think he can definitely step it up. I would say that's going to be a shootout. Now, as far as who wins, I got to take the Chiefs, man. 1-1. I can't imagine the Chiefs having a losing record at any point during the season. So I would say Chiefs 36-25.
All right. Jad, what's your score prediction for this game?
All right. So Justin Herbert did have his breakout game against the Chiefs last season, if I am correct.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a fun one to watch. I'm actually really excited to tune into this one. As long as Patrick Mahomes doesn't channel his inner Jameis Winston like he did on that third down throw that let the Ravens back into the game, if he's the Patrick Mahomes that he was for the rest of his career, honestly, I don't see any chance that the Chargers can win this game. I know Derwin James is right now ranked as the best safety in the league on PFF, so that's something to watch. But I do think it's going to be a good game, but I think this is going to be a high scoring win for the Chiefs, and I'll go 35-28.
All right, last time I bet against the Chiefs blowout, I didn't do so hot, but I'll stick with the Chiefs and I'll go with let's go like 31-27. That's what I'll go with. So we'll
All
move
right.
on to the second game of the week, which is Green Bay versus the Niners. Excuse me. And Dan, we'll start with you. What are your initial thoughts and previews on this game?
Really a defense versus offense game. Niners D looked good last week. Those guys, that secondary, all the talk was that they're banged up. The Eagles needed to take advantage of sort of their injuries. They looked very good. Those guys were really stepping up. And
I
granted,
agree.
it's the Eagles receivers, not Devontae Adams. But I would say lower scoring game here. I'm going to take the Packers, though. Let's say 25-17.
Okay. I'll give my score prediction. I actually think the Niners can squeak out this one. I like the Niners offense more than I like the Packers defense. If I'm being real, I think Samuel has stepped it up a lot. Kittle, no one on that defense can guard Kittle, and I'll take the Niners 20-14 in this game. What about you, Chad?
So as you both know, we have a good friend that is a massive Green Bay fan, and I love nothing more than the Packers starting off 1-2. But I see Aaron Rodgers taking his kind of revenge on this game. I mean, he did have a good game last week, but that was against a pretty crappy Lions team. So I can see Aaron Rodgers kind of going nuclear this game. I would love to. I would love nothing more than the 49ers to come out with this win, but I think it's gonna go the Packers' way, and I'll give it a 24 24-17.
All right, I like that. And we'll quickly talk about our last game of the week, which is the Bucks and Rams, which actually is the most intriguing out of the three. Just Jad, what are your initial thoughts on this game? You got the GOAT versus the Rams, amazing defense.
I do think this is gonna be a fun one to watch. I think that Rams defense might want a little revenge on Tom Brady after what he did to him. So I don't know. I could see this. This is an interesting one. I think I could see this being a blowout for either of the two teams. Actually, I think on
Okay.
paper they're super nicely matched out. But I'm gonna go with the Rams in a bit of a shocker. I'm gonna go with the Rams 28 and then the Bucks 21.
Okay. What about you, Dan?
I like that pick. I was going to say a bit of a hot take, but I think the Rams are going to win. I think Tom Brady's going to struggle against the Rams defense. I'm going to go 17-21 Rams.
Okay. And I'll hop on. Earlier I said the Rams are my Super Bowl team, so I'm gonna pick the Rams. I'll go 30-23, and that's my score prediction.
Wow, Rams swept, huh?
Yeah, that's what we think. We'll come back to this, but see if the GOAT can maybe make us eat our words.
Make us all look goofy.
Right.
Yeah. Well, wrapping up episode 3, we hope you guys all enjoyed, and we have a bit of an announcement to share with you all. We will have a visual part of the podcast coming to you guys, so everything you hear, you'll be able to listen to you'll be able to watch, on our YouTube channel, which is Between the Lines. Go ahead and subscribe. You may have to look for it a bit, but we'll probably have it linked in our Instagrams. So if you guys already haven't, please follow us on Spotify and subscribe on YouTube. And we hope to see you guys next time. As for Nishant,
Dan?
J Money.
we appreciate you all. Peace.
Peace.
Later.